If you haven't already heard yet, things could be changing for buyer's agents in the near future. So we can complain and moan about it, or we can be ready to pivot and change our business structure in order to beat out our competitors who are just gonna complain and be lost in the shuffle if and when things change. But how do we do it? This video is gonna show you what you need to be doing in order to prepare now for whatever may come our way as agents. Hey everyone, for those of you that don't know me yet, my name is Joe Skipper and I'm the owner of Skipper Realty Group, brokered by EXP Realty here in Oregon. Now, I started this YouTube channel to not only provide buyers and sellers tips and tricks and market information so that they can go into the home buying and selling process with the most knowledge, but I also help agents with tips and tricks and advice on how to succeed in an industry that is so easy to get into and so hard to stay in. So before we get started, if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing to this page, that would be a huge help to me. I want this channel to help you as agents to dominate in this industry. And I want to provide you with a place that you can come in order to find advice on stuff like we're going to talk about today. Now, the first thing I want to say is that nothing has changed as of this video. Nothing. Your brokerage may be putting into place certain rules and paperwork that you will be or required to do now, but the NAR lawsuit settlement has not come into effect yet, and we don't know what things will and will not be left over when that time actually comes. So what I'll say now is don't freak out about any of this. I know that you've seen it on social media and the news media that the sky is falling and how agents are worthless and they're a thing of the past. Bad ones are for sure, but there is a need and still will be a need for good agents who are experts in their industry. So mute the clickbait stuff and focus on your own business and how you're gonna stand out amongst the crowd. But there are changes to the law that are coming, at least in Oregon, besides the lawsuit, and that is that buyers are now going to be required to sign a buyer's representation agreement. Oregon House Bill 4058 requires the use of buyer's representation agreements between a buyer and a buyer's agent. Now, that law will come into effect January 1 of 2025. Now, if this settlement happens prior to that, then it may speed things up a bit and we may be using them before January 1. What this means for agents in Oregon, and most likely this will happen all around the country, is that rather than a buyer calling you up and saying, hey, let's go see a home, you just get up and you go do it, they'll be required to have a buyer's rep agreement signed before you start showing them the actual house. Now, this agreement is still in flux and your brokerage has already figured out how to manage all of this or is in the process of that right now. But my company, EXP Realty, has been ahead of this curve for a while now. They already have been providing classes on this, guides for agents and their buyers, as well as continued education as that lawsuit gets settled in the near future. So the one thing I would suggest before we get going on how to explain to a buyer about these new agreements is to make sure that you're with a brokerage that is helping you and your clients through all of this stuff. This is potentially a big change to our industry, and as I've said before, most people only sell home once, twice, maybe 3 times in their lives, so they are only gonna know their experience back before all of this stuff happened. When you throw a buyer's rep agreement at them, they will be shocked most likely, and they won't know what to do. So being with a brokerage that can guide you through all of this is gonna put you ahead of most agents. Now, I'm not saying to join EXP, as there are a lot of bigger brokerages out there doing well with this stuff. But I love EXP and how they have been tackling this issue before the lawsuit settlement was even a thing. But what do you say to a buyer that hasn't seen this lawsuit and hasn't bought a home since 1990? The first thing I would do as an agent in today's world is to start to get a buyer's appointment ready. We already do the listing appointment stuff, all the docs, the pretty presentations, the stuff that shows you why you should be the seller's listing agent. So now you just need to get that same stuff ready for a buyer's presentation. With Skipper Realty Group, we are already preparing and starting to do buyer's presentations for our buyers. Rather than just meeting them for the first time at the first house that they want to see, we explain to them a bit about the NAR lawsuit and how in our case, in Oregon law is going to require a buyer's agency agreement, and that we would like to meet with them to go over what this all means and to answer any questions that they're gonna have. In a certain way, this makes things so much easier on us as agents because we can get a formal time set up for the buyer and prep for that meeting and have all of our ducks in a row for that particular meeting and that client. And especially if this is a new buyer we have never met, it's a way to not only meet them in person so that you can learn about yourselves and them, but also to show them the value that you as the agent are going to provide to that buyer during the process. This is the time to shine. So having a presentation ready to explain the new process and show your value is going to be huge, because if we have to start explaining that the buyers will be responsible for your compensation, we have to really know what we're doing going into this meeting. So this is going to be a shock to buyers. So being prepped for this is going to be super helpful for you. Now, our brokerage offers documents, presentations for buyers, so we have templates to go off of to do this stuff, but having things like the new law and what it means, frequently asked questions, options for buyers, they should be in your presentation. You already do this for listings, so now it's just pivoting to the buyer side and doing the exact same thing. In our industry, as most of you know, or if you are new, you'll find out, is that there are some really amazing agents out there that represent our industry well and showcase why people need professionals when buying and selling their home. But there are some agents that are bad, like really bad, that give us all a bad name and leave a bad taste in buyers and sellers' mouths because of how their sale went in the past. Now, with these new changes coming, I think we will see more of the good agents and less of the bad, which in my opinion is a really good thing. Anyways, besides having a great buyer's presentation, you need to be prepared for some of the questions that are going to be asked of you. So here are a few big ones that may be asked in my responses to buyers in these particular cases. The buyer may ask, are there options to cover your commissions through the seller still? The answer to that is yes. This lawsuit and the buyer's representation agreement at this point do not prevent the seller from offering compensation for the buyer's agent, as they always have done. They can't advertise that amount in the listing officially, but you as the agent can find that out and work from there. For example, you as the buyer love a certain home. I call and I ask about the commission. They say they offer 2% commission to the buyer's agent, and you as the buyer have signed a buyer's representation for, say, 3%. You as the buyer would only be responsible for that remaining 1%. Now, the follow-up to this is always, well, I can't do that extra 3% or the 1%. Can the seller negotiate? The answer to that is yes. You can negotiate on that as you can with the price of the home or other concessions. And my job as your agent is to see if we can get you into the home you love for the best price and terms possible, including those commissions. When buyers know there are options for ways to pay your commission rather than directly out of their pocket, it puts them at ease almost immediately. Now, I'm definitely not saying to lead them on and tell them that they're not gonna have to pay your commission themselves anytime, but by telling them as your agent that you're gonna do your best to negotiate your commission into the deal, it shows them you are looking out for their particular interest. Buyers have a hard enough time coming up with closing costs and down payments to then have to throw down whatever commission that you are charging as well. Another question you will most likely get from a buyer because of all this is that if they go directly to the seller's agent, they can save some money on your compensation, right? Now, there's no short answer, and I normally tell them that yes, on the surface level, that sounds like a great idea. But there are a few different things that happen in these cases. One is a good seller's agent is not going to represent both the seller and you as the buyer for free. So they're either going to ask the seller to raise their compensation in order to do this, or have you as the buyer sign a buyer's agreement in which you will be charged compensation anyways. You'll definitely have cut rate agents out there that will jump at the chance to represent both sides for a discounted rate. You as the buyer, more often than not, get what you pay for, so expect the level of service that goes with that particular discount. Also, and probably the most important part of asking the seller's agent to represent you as the buyer is that the selling agent represents the person that's selling their home and expecting the most money from this sale, and has probably chatted with their selling agent about that numerous times. And you as the buyer have the opposite thing in mind, and you want the best deal on the home. So that selling agent has had a listing presentation with the seller, they know them, they trust them, and now you are coming in off the street and saying, yeah, get us the best deal on this place. See where this doesn't seem as good as you may have thought? Buyer's agents came into play long ago because of this very same issue. Buyers didn't think that they were getting represented properly in a sale, so what did we do? We made buyer's agents so that the buyer had an expert in the industry only representing their interest in a sale. This is how it should be to ensure both parties get fair and equal treatment on a sale, and they can walk away knowing that they got the best deal that they could in it. Agencies, lenders, and sellers will be adapting to all of this stuff as we move forward. So you will start to see extremes from some people in order to try to save a buck. For example, I'm sure we will start seeing sellers saying that they are going to offer nothing to the buyer's agent. Now, in my humble opinion, and depending on whether it's a buyer's or seller's market, is that they're going to either be not seeing many buyers seeing their home, or they will be getting offers that end up compensating the buyer's agent in one way or another. So to recap, have a buyer's presentation ready for your buyers. Explain to them when they call that you need to meet with them first to discuss the new law or the new lawsuit settlement and how that changes what buyers are going to be dealing with in the future. Go over and practice your responses to these questions we talked about and have updated knowledge on what's going on with the lawsuit and law changes in your particular area and your state. Explain to them why you provide the best value to them and how you and your brokerage are ahead of all this stuff, and you provide buyers with a much better experience and value than the others. And finally, showcase yourself and who you are. These changes will allow us to sit down with buyers and have a discussion to get to know each other and to learn about each other. I think this is a great thing for buyers and their agents. I hated showing up at a house with a cold lead to show them the home and had about 5 minutes to chat with them before we move on to the next home. It was so hard to build a relationship with the buyer this way. So I would say take this opportunity and the laws and changes that are coming to set up times with buyers to sit down with them, chat about what makes you the great agent that you are. By being an expert in this industry and showing buyers they can trust you on their next purchase, you are going to get a lot less pushback than you think on all of this stuff. I hope this helped explain some things to you guys on what is going on with our world and a few steps to take to be ready for it. Now, if you need any help with this stuff or you have any questions as to how to present it to a buyer, I would love to chat with you, so feel free to reach out to me. And if you want to be part of a brokerage and a team that is ahead of the game already and can take your business to the next level, reach out to me and we can set up a time to chat about that particular topic. And don't forget to like and subscribe to my page so that you can stay up to date with the latest tips and tricks for agents out there today. Thanks, guys.